morning?
Fantastic.
Good.
I mean,
Feeling hopeful?
Yeah. Not the kind of hope that's provided from the, other quarters, but...
Are you hopeful or not?
Yeah, I am, by God's grace, hopeful.
We thank God
Everything
for
we shall say this morning will be designed to give hope.
Okay, let's hope the
Not
headlines
hope.
are hopeful.
Yes.
Let's start with the Gold Street business. Trade surplus rises in Q1, that's quarter 1 of 2019. National Insurance Commission insurers push to sensitize public on insurance. 9 exploration firms owe over $1 million in surface rental fees.
The Finder has these on the front page. The Petroleum Hub tour is vital. That's a very wonderful write-up from Sergio Jose on the front page. There's government unveiling the 8-year, 250,000 aggressive housing plan. But there's a big one in the hotel later on. 200 medical students off to Cuba for training. And Ecobank Ghana is driving some cashlight agenda with Ecobank Pay launch. That's also on the front page of the Finder this morning.
The Ghanaian Observer has government to build 250,000 housing units yearly, rolls out mortgage system to tackle housing challenges, and we heard about the Akufo-Addo flats as announced by Works and Housing Minister. Trouble brews over University of Education win by alumni elections. Jasican chief applauds President Akufo-Addo, and court remands Esiakwa teacher killers.
Now, the Herald is reporting this morning Supreme Court orders AG to justify Martin Amidu's appointment, and Export Promotion Authority blows 100,000 Ghana cedis on 3-minute video documentary as Roth returns. That's on the front page of the Herald. The last one is National Security Minister has been reported to police over death threats. The man is supposed to secure the people.
Yeah.
But okay, this report is by one regional Director of Communications in the Ashanti against National Security Minister.
Okay.
The Daily Statesman newspaper has Ghana will not progress without you. Ayoko fires up women. Your achievements are visible. Guess who's saying this? Jasican chief lauding the president. MPP is Ghana's poor party. That's a finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta.
Before Nima gets the needed Villaggio-like facilities, Wash Africa and Zoom Lion Ghana Limited is cleaning the place. And that's on the front page of the Today paper. Nana's Girl is also hot on the front page. And there's a picture of Francis Esiam, the CEO of the cylinder manufacturing company. Now, more on Amidu.
And Nana's girl is in quotes.
Yes.
The Daily Guide newspaper, Opuni purchased $19.2 million untested fertilizer. That's a witness saying in court. The Jasican chief displaying Nana's scorecard is here. Amidu, age case lingers. Ghana targets 90% treatment for HIV kids. Those are the stories here. And NDC plans to scrap special prosecutor office.
Now, the Chronicle is reporting this morning that police stories on the front page, but there is one about work on Jaskan the Pepesu Road starting in July. This according to the President of the Republic of Ghana.
The Daily Graphic newspaper is the last paper I have. Work on Eastern Corridor Road. That story you just reviewed is here. File arguments in suit against Martin Amidu. That Supreme Court directing 12 NIA officials sacked. And we heard this yesterday on the Super Morning Show because they violated Ghana card registration rules. Back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Over 1.7 billion tons of iron ore discovered in Tatali Sanguli district. Closed season on artisanal fishing commences today.
Now, there is one on the front page about the new crusading guide reporting this morning. Deputy Information Minister knew about bloated list before Australia visa scandal. That's the story there together. Dr. Sapon disrupts UUW alumni elections with a gang of hoodlums. Those are the stories that the new crusading guide is reporting this morning.
Let's begin, Malik, with the story on the 12 NIA officials who have been sacked.
Yes. Yesterday, when the executive director of the National Identification Authority was on the morning show, he told us about 11 people were going to be dismissed yesterday. 5 others were going to be suspended. Those things have happened. The person who speaks for the NIA, Mr. Pamdeti, says that these persons have been sacked. In fact, 12 of them have been sacked. 4 others have been suspended because they committed minor actions. Now, the persons who have been sacked, some of the offenses they have committed were absenteeism and working beyond given time without authorization. And many of them are contract staff, and they basically are coordinating registration officers, mobile registration workforce officers, workforce station operators, card verification and registration officers. These are basically the categories of persons who have been sacked because of various infractions that they engaged in. And some of the infractions are, as I listed them, they registered the registration of foreigners, registration of persons outside designated centers and outside the stipulated time period. Some of them they were hired purposely for card registration exercise, and then some of them extortion as well. And Professor Kenatifa made this known yesterday. We know that at Kaneshie, there was there were two persons who were caught registering in a private home. These persons, when they were confronted by some NDC supporters, ran away and left the equipment. The equipment were taken. Yesterday, we heard that the police are still in search for those persons. Exactly. There was another guy who was at the Aboso Kain area who was caught registering 2 Nigerians, and he himself confessed to police that he took 60 Ghana cedis in order to register these. So all of those persons have been dismissed, and then the rest of the 4, those are minor offenses, and so they have been suspended.
Okay.
Depending on what happens, if they show good behavior, their suspensions may be revoked, and then they will continue to work for the NIE. But of course, the major complaint by Professor Kenatifa is that he expects the young people who have been recruited to do this exercise to demonstrate integrity and zealousness in the work that they do. He does not expect young people to be those who are extorting money and who are not treating people fairly and who are not responding to people's concerns well. He thinks that because the development of this country hinges on young people, they must demonstrate integrity when they are recruited to do a national assignment for the country.
Of course, guys, let's at least commend the NIO officials. They are taking action against these persons who we demanded action be taken against. And to the public as well, let's continue to report when we see things like this. Let's continue to report, because that is when we can hold these persons to book and ask them to take action as they have now.
And those who go anywhere and they use their phones and then they just generate a digital address and use it to register. You're not doing you're not doing yourself any good, and you're not doing the country any good when you deliberately and willfully generate wrong information and you use that to register.
Okay.
It doesn't serve anybody's interest to do that.
Very true, Malik. Raymond, Esiakwa was the scene of some drama yesterday.
Yes, and there was a lot of action there. The court that is dealing with the 6 that have been accused of killing this head teacher of Salvation Army, of course, the teacher of Salvation Army basic school, this particular teacher was actually beaten to death. He ended up in the hospital. He was beaten, ended up in the hospital, and died later on. Now, the police took the 6 to court. They were remanded, but before they were remanded, there was a little bit, problem to do whether or not all of them, the ages that the police gave to the prosecution. Even the prosecutor herself said she doubted the ages. So she should be given leave to go and investigate that. This gave the lawyers for the people enough room to say that no, all these young men, they are below 18. So the ages quoted like 18, 19, 18 and 19 cannot be true. So please, they are all minors. Treat them aside. They are all below 18 in this particular case. So then the court said, okay, I'm remanding them to June 28. Go and investigate their ages. Then come back and let's deal with the matter. But they've been charged. Conspiracy to commit murder and murder. What makes this charge very disheartening was that if, according to the teacher who spoke to us yesterday, if the people in the community had not intervened, anytime this wonderful teacher had reported the people to the police, and the police had prosecuted the people on encroachment, trespassing, and all the perhaps smaller crimes that they could have been dealt with, they wouldn't have been today facing murder and conspiracy to commit murder. So what the teacher told us yesterday was that the school snail farm is where the people go to do their illicit activities. They are either smoking or they are engaging in illicit sexual conduct. Then this teacher, yes, and virtually doing all the things that are not allowed there. When they were reported to the police and they were arrested, some very powerful people within the community intervened. And they were then asked to pay for snails rather. So instead of them being dealt with the law and they learning lessons from these lesser crimes, they decided to now free them and let them pay for it. These young men decided to now take a pound of flesh, then pounds of this gentleman for making them pay. So if there were no intervention for the people in the community, I'm sure these guys would not today be facing the crimes that they are facing. But moving on, we understand that June 25th is when they are supposed to come back to court. The issue about their age will be dealt with. The other charges will also be properly dealt with.
You know the irony of these two cases that we just dealt with? With a proper national identity register, we won't have disputes over age.
Yes.
And that is why we need what is happening right now with Prof. Kenneth Tefa and all that is happening. Someone just suggested to me that maybe we can have the authorities put people in hospitals so that they can register them when they are born, so that we don't have any hullabaloo about
I remember barely 4 years ago, the UNICEF released a report that suggested that it's only 1/3 of the kids in the country that gets registered at birth.
Yes, there are processes, so we need their birth certificates, but I don't think we can have the NIA data because even at birth, their fingerprints are not fully formed. And what
the other thing is a larger majority of people still gave birth at home.
Yeah, they
are attended to by traditional birth attendants, and so, but we should be able to register them if we are so minded.
That's very true, Malik.
Anyway, let's move from court to court, right? So, this is a case involving the former chief executive of COCOBOD, Dr. Stephen Opuni, and Agricult Ghana Limited CEO Seydou Agongo. Now, a witness yesterday in court told the court that Dr. Stephen Opuni signed a letter allowing Agricult to supply 700,000 liters of liquid fertilizer when this liquid fertilizer was untested. And the person testifying is a former deputy chief executive of COCOBOD, Dr. Yao Edu Ampoma. He told the court that when he was there as deputy chief executive, Agricult submitted some fertilizer to him, and they submitted the fertilizer together with a document they called material safety data sheet, and they were supposed to test this fertilizer. The testing of the fertilizer started before he left, and he found out subsequently during the transition that even though the rules provide that fertilizer tested on cocoa, it must take 2 years in order to properly assess the efficacy of the fertilizer. In 9 months after this fertilizer was submitted and was being tested, the chief executive then wrote a letter asking Agricult to supply this quantum of liquid fertilizer. The other issue that came up in court was that he said the fertilizer supplied for testing by Agricult together with this material safety data sheet was powdery. It was powdered fertilizer.
Okay.
And yet what was ordered and supplied was liquid fertilizer. And he said that what was actually supplied was materially different from what was submitted for testing by the supplier himself.
Okay.
And so this is the case in court, and this is what his testimony was in court about the contradictions and incoherence in what was submitted and what was procured. And the case against Dr. Opuni, we know, causing financial loss to the state, among other charges brought, they are together 27, right? Brought against him and Seydou Agongo by the Attorney General.
To another case, but this time which is not in court, Raymond?
Yes. Now the New Crusading guys is saying that there's a revelation on that particular. You remember the Australia visa scandal where some Ghanaians were deported. They were asked to come back because they were not part of any specialized contingency. Now the New Crusading guy is saying that Deputy Information Minister Pius Enam-Hadzide was allegedly aware of Ghana's list months before the infamous deportation of the 60 Ghanaians at that particular 21st Commonwealth Games, Gold Coast 2018. Of course, he said that an exhibit in a report presented by the subcommittee of the Ghana Olympics Committee is suggesting that. Now, the blotted list was made up of names of fake beach volleyball players and officials, 5 of whom were eventually deported for trying to enter Australia. Now, the exhibit, which is marked Exhibit 5, in the committee's report, it says that the third vice president of the GOC sought to question the inclusion of certain names on the list as far back as January 2018, 2 clear months before the scandal broke in Australia. Mr. Hadzide, who was then the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports and Chairman of the International Games Committee, was allegedly made aware of the blotted list in January 2018 when he led a team to to plan Ghana's pre-games in that particular area. Now, despite overwhelming evidence against, of course, that's what the summary of this particular report says, that despite the overwhelming evidence against the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports, the Ghanaian President Akufo-Addo announced the reinstatement of Mr. Pius Enam Hajide to his position on 9 July 2018. He was subsequently appointed as Deputy Minister of Information, a position he continues to occupy, but the presidency is here to make to release the findings of the Criminal Investigations Department's investigations, which absolved Mr. Hajide of any wrongdoing in the scandal. Also saying is that conspicuously missing from the list of reinstatement officials was the then acting Director General of the National Sports Authority, Robert Safo Mensah, who was caught on camera receiving 5,000 to get a national under-17 player more playing time in the national team in the ANAS and number 12 expose on corruption. So this is a very special leaf. Like I say, more of this will be coming out in subsequent reports, because this is a report already they are saying was before the presidency.
I am very curious to find out if these persons were absolved in the Australia visa scandal.
Yes, that's
who
what
is guilty.
Oh, okay.
Because someone is guilty. If they were absolved, who is guilty? Anyway, Malik, let's go back to court.
Yes. So we are going back to court, and this matter involves Almighty Martin Alamisi, Kaiser Burns.
Kaiser.
Yes, special prosecutor. Now, in court yesterday, a 7-member panel of Supreme Court, chaired by Justice Julius Ansah, directed that the parties, Attorney General represented by Deputy Attorney General Godfrey Dame and Dr. Dominic Kayine, a former Deputy Attorney General himself, who brought this case challenging the eligibility of Mr. Martin Amidu to occupy the office of Special Prosecutor on account of having passed the retirement age of 60 as required by the Constitution. The two parties, according to the 7 judges, should file their legal arguments before the court within 3 weeks. And this came about after Tonelita, who is lawyer for Dominic Kayine, told the court that the parties had agreed on a memorandum of issues which the court would set out for determination. Okay. And he actually told the court that the memorandum of issues was filed on February 13th, and therefore they could proceed with the case. Now, we know that Dominic Kayine brought this case, arguing that the nomination of Martin Amidu by the Attorney General as required by law, and which was endorsed by the President for vetting by Parliament, is inconsistent with provisions of the Constitution, specifically Article 199 of the Constitution. And he said that the man has gone past the retirement age of 60, and this is a compulsory retirement age. He does not understand why he will be appointed or nominated as special prosecutor. Of course, the Attorney General disagrees and says that the position of special prosecutor is not exactly a public office as said in the Constitution, and therefore they do not think that Article 199 of the Constitution applies to him. So we will see when all the legal arguments are filed and the judges have the opportunity to look at them, where things will swing, whether Martin Amidu will continue to hold the office. But of course, we know that Martin Amidu was struck out as a defendant in that case because the judges said he was not properly a defendant.
Online news review now, and is brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, and Goil Good Energy. Make your day productive by relying on quality fuel from Goil, your 3-time CIMG Petroleum Company of the Year. Goil Super XP and Diesel XP are additive to enhance strong engine performance and prolong the lifespan of your vehicle. Above all, you're guaranteed extra quality with our fuel analyzer from our mobile laboratory van. Get your money's worth every day by buying fuel and lubricants from any of Goil's over 360 service stations nationwide and experience good energy. Buy Goil, grow Ghana. Goil, good energy. Goil, Yenara Yedia. Go light with Zenith Bank and have dinner on us at the Plush African Regent Hotel. Isn't that exciting? To enjoy this offer, simply use any MasterCard to make a minimum purchase of 500 Ghana cedis on a Zenith Bank POS at the African Regent Hotel and be rewarded with a free dinner or a discount of 100 Ghana cedis on other meal options. Visit the African Regent Hotel today. Use any MasterCard on a Zenith Bank POS and have dinner on us. Go light with Zenith Bank. Pay light. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. MyJoyOnline.com has a campaign for better security at churches begins amid security scare. We will be Speaking to security expert Dr. Kwesi Enin on the back of the security scare and the recent attacks on Burkina Faso here on the Super Morning Show. So you want to stay with us for that conversation. But I think this is from PM Express last night. Bishop Adaimen says a spokesperson for the National Association, spokesperson on security for the National Association of Christian and Charismatic Churches. Nima and Mamobi to have Villaggio-like facelifts, according to Housing Minister. Raymond, do you have some details on this one?
Yes, that's the particular story I was supposed to give you. By the end of this year, we will see the wonderful buildings just in front of the former President Kufuor's house be replicated in the areas of Nima and Mamobi. And this is because, you see, we need to uplift and let it be befitting of the areas we're talking about. Also because it's close to the seat of president, and we also have it near the central business district. And this is a reformation period. Just that, when you're unable to bridge your housing deficit and you promise wonderful buildings in certain areas, it makes it interesting
No, but
to see.
this also goes to address the housing deficit, doesn't it? Yeah, because
I think when you are
replacing people's
Okay,
houses.
so you know what we're going to
to
do? We are going to continue with the online news review now.
Clean
Because
your-
adomonline.com says ban on trading in dollar won't make the cedi strong. Chief Executive Officer of the National Entrepreneurial and Innovation Plan, Mr. John Kuma, speaking there. He is urging banks to lend to small businesses because the future of the cedi lies in their hands, not in banning trading in dollar. The BBC.com has a Sudan crisis. Military and opposition agree on a 3-year transition. A 3-year transition. I wonder if that works for the opposition there, the civilians there, I mean. So that's it for the newspaper and online review. But before we go, though,
For the parent is sadness. Well, mine is not. It is anger. And I expect you to be angry. The kind of anger that is required for state agencies to act swiftly. In the meantime, we're still looking for the girls. See something, say something.
Imagine waking up one morning with a dream.
so you just heard my colleagues here at Joy News appealing to you that if you see something, you say something. You also heard the mother of one of these 3 girls who is waiting for her daughter to come home. A few days ago, it was Mother's Day, and the very child who makes her a mother has been taken from her. We still stand with these people, and in the midst of this pain, we are asking what can be done, what must be done. Nana Oyelita is the former Gender Social Protection Minister, and she'll be joining us today on the Super Morning Show to tell us just that. We take these important messages. Stay with us.